It always starts the same way: a stumble, a misplaced step, a glitch in the reality you've trusted your whole life. Suddenly, you're falling through the floor, except the floor isn't breaking. It's like slipping through the cracks of existence itself. When you land, you're somewhere else, a place that shouldn't be. A place called the Backrooms. The first recorded mention of this impossible realm surfaced on an anonymous image board in 2019. A single unsettling photo accompanied the post. Endless yellowish walls, stained and damp under flickering fluorescent lights. The carpet moist with an inexplicable dampness. The air thick with the smell of mildew and something else, something rotten. And the caption that came with it was chillingly simple. If you're not careful and you no-clip out of reality in the wrong areas, you'll end up in the Backrooms, where it's nothing but the stink of old moist carpet, the madness of mono-yellow, the endless background noise of fluorescent lights at maximum hum buzz, and approximately 600 million square miles of randomly segmented empty rooms to be trapped in. God save you if you hear something wandering around nearby, because it sure as hell has heard you. That post was supposed to be fiction, a weird internet creepypasta. But it wasn't. Because soon after, people began to come forward, people who claimed to have been there, who had seen it with their own eyes. They spoke of no-clipping, a terrifying term now known among urban legend enthusiasts and horror communities. It describes falling through reality into a hidden dimension, a liminal purgatory beneath our world. And those who returned were never quite the same. The accounts that haunt us. Case number 1. The teen who came back wrong. Take the story of 17-year-old Marcus H. from Ohio. In 2020, Marcus vanished for 3 months. He had been last seen skateboarding near a construction site. Police assumed he had run away until he was found, naked, curled up in the corner of an abandoned factory miles from his last known location. When he was discovered, Marcus was emaciated, dehydrated, and his skin was covered in strange lesions, like burn marks, but not quite. He had aged far beyond 3 months. His hair had grayed, his teeth had begun to rot. He was muttering under his breath, repeating the same phrase over and over. "Don't let it see you. Don't let it see you. Don't let it see you." Later, when he could speak coherently, Marcus described falling into what he called the yellow rooms. He spoke of endless corridors and the suffocating hum of the lights above. He wandered for what felt like years, surviving on stagnant water that pooled in corners. But that wasn't the worst part. It was the thing that followed him. He never saw it directly, only fleeting shadows at the edge of his vision. But he heard it. Wet footsteps squelching on the damp carpet, ragged breathing that didn't sound human, and sometimes whispering. Low, guttural words he couldn't understand, but he swore they were his name. Marcus's mental health deteriorated rapidly after his return. He was found hanging from a belt in his room 3 weeks later. His suicide note was just a scrawled message on the wall in black marker, "The lights never go out." Case number 2. The office worker who disappeared between floors. Another haunting account comes from 38-year-old Sarah D., a receptionist in London. In 2021, Sarah was taking the elevator to her office's 6th floor when she pressed the button and the doors never reopened. The CCTV footage is deeply unsettling. The elevator camera shows Sarah standing calmly as the floor indicator above her flickers, then glitches. The numbers cycle erratically before settling on 04, a floor that doesn't exist. Sarah's expression shifts from confusion to panic. She begins pounding on the doors, pressing buttons wildly. Then the camera cuts out for exactly 18 seconds. When it resumes, the elevator is empty. Sarah was never found. Her co-workers reported hearing strange sounds in the days that followed, faint sobbing from inside the walls and soft scratching behind the drywall. Building maintenance once opened a vent near the elevator shaft and discovered a crumpled post-it note inside. On it, in Sarah's handwriting, was a single word: help. Case number 3. The Redditor's final transmission. Perhaps the most disturbing is the case of user NoClip91, a Reddit user who, in 2022, began posting detailed updates from inside the Backrooms. At first, the post seemed like elaborate fiction. He described waking up in the yellow corridors after falling asleep on his couch. His descriptions aligned perfectly with the classic image, the buzzing lights, the damp smell. But his updates took a darker turn. He began documenting his descent into madness. He wrote about losing track of time, hours, days, weeks blurring together. He mentioned finding skeletons, their jaws locked open in silent screams. He described rooms that shouldn't exist, doors that led to vast chasms, staircases spiraling into pitch blackness, and windows showing nothing but static. And then he saw it. He described the entity as faceless and wrong. Humanoid, but not quite. Its skin was slick and stretched too tightly. It moved in jerky, unnatural ways, like a puppet with its strings tangled. And its eyes, if you could call them that, were black voids that seemed to eat the light. His final post was a video, shaky and filled with static. It shows him running down a corridor, panting. The lights overhead begin to flicker violently. For a brief moment, the camera catches something in the distance, a dark silhouette, lurching forward unnaturally fast. Then there's a scream. The camera hits the floor and the feed cuts. His account was deleted the next day. No trace of him was ever found. What is the Backrooms? No one knows for sure. Some believe it's an accidental tear in reality, an unfinished layer beneath existence, like an old video game map with rooms that were never meant to be seen. Others claim it's purgatory, or an interdimensional trap laid by entities beyond human understanding. One chilling theory suggests the Backrooms are alive, that the walls themselves watch and shift, leading wanderers deeper when they get too close to an exit. And the entities? They are fragments of those who failed to escape, twisted echoes of past victims now hunting the next. But the most disturbing idea? That the Backrooms are growing. That every time someone no-clips, the space expands, branching into our reality bit by bit. And one day, we might all fall through. Final warning. If you ever feel reality glitch, a door that leads to a hallway that shouldn't exist, a room that feels wrong, or a buzz in the air that makes your teeth vibrate, turn back. Because if you step too far, you might just slip through the cracks. And once you're in the Backrooms, you may never find your way out. In hushed corners of the internet and old, tattered books buried in antique shops, there exists mention of the man in the fields ritual, a game, a test, a curse. No one knows exactly how old it is, but references to it stretch back centuries. Some claim it was an old European tradition used to ward off spirits that plagued crops, while others say it has no human origin at all. What is known, however, is that those who attempt it often regret it, and those who fail are never seen again. It is not a game of chance, nor one of bravery. It is a ritual designed to expose the thin barrier between the mundane and the supernatural. A test to see if you are fast enough, clever enough to keep something out. Because if you fail, something else comes inside. The ritual must begin just after sundown, in a place where there is open ground, fields, backyards, empty lots. You must stand outside and say, in a calm and steady voice, "I see a man in the fields." If you've done it correctly, you will feel a shift in the air, a weight, a presence. The world around you will feel too quiet. And then, if you look carefully towards the horizon or to the edge of the field, you will see him. A tall, gaunt figure, dressed in ragged clothing, standing perfectly still. His face will be hidden either by shadow or distance. He will not move. Not yet. From that moment, the clock is ticking. Your goal is simple. Secure every possible entrance to your home before midnight. Every window, every door, every vent, no matter how small. You must close curtains, shut blinds, turn off every single light. But here's the rule that makes this impossible. The man in the fields moves when you aren't looking. Each time you glance away, even if only for a heartbeat, he gets closer. The more obstacles between him and your home, the slower he moves. But if you leave an opening, a window cracked, a door unlocked, he will get in. And if he enters your home, the ritual does not end. You do. There are records, obscure, fragmented, of people who have encountered the man in the fields. The first documented case was in 1872 in a small farming village in England. A family of 5 disappeared overnight. The house was found with every window and door flung open, as if someone or something had forced its way in. There were no signs of a struggle, no bodies, just a single dusty footprint leading from the fields to the front door. In the years that followed, there were other stories. A fisherman in 1903 who claimed to have seen a figure standing in the reeds before his entire village vanished overnight. A factory worker in the 1950s who reported shadowy movements outside his home, only to be found wandering the streets days later, whispering, "Who tends the fields?" over and over. But the most chilling cases come from the modern era. The Colburn family, Missouri, 2014. Robert Colburn was a father of 2, a skeptic by nature and a lover of urban legends. On Halloween night, he decided to test the man in the fields ritual for himself, live streaming the experience to his small but dedicated group of horror fans online. His final words on the stream were, "I see a man in the fields." The footage is still debated to this day. At first, Robert's tone is playful as he describes the figure in the distance. He walks through his house, locking doors, securing windows, confident that it's all just a game. But then, things change. A door he swore he had locked is suddenly ajar. The lights flicker, then go dark. There is a sound, faint at first, a whisper from the hallway. Who tends the fields? Robert never made it to midnight. The video abruptly cuts off, the screen going black. When authorities arrived, they found his home ransacked. Blood smeared the walls in patterns too intricate to be accidental. His family was missing. Only his laptop remained, the live stream window still open. And in the final frozen frame of the video, captured in a single frame before the feed went dead, was a face, elongated, hollowed out, grinning. Something had come inside. The college roommates, Oregon, 27. 4 students rented an off-campus house in rural Oregon. One night, after reading about the man in the fields ritual on a forum, they decided to try it. They laughed at first, pointing at the distant figure at the tree line. They didn't believe it was real. By 11 p.m., they weren't laughing anymore. They heard footsteps above them, despite knowing the attic was empty. The locks on the doors kept unlocking on their own. At 11:57 p.m., one of them, Sarah, called 911. The dispatcher heard only heavy breathing, followed by a male voice asking, "Who tends the fields?" The police arrived 10 minutes later. 2 students were found huddled in the bathtub, catatonic. The other 2, Sarah and Chris, were gone. In Chris's room, officers found scratches on the wall, like someone had clawed at the paint from the inside. In Sarah's room, her phone was found still recording. The last thing she had captured was her own reflection in the window, except her reflection was smiling, but she wasn't. What happens if you fail? The answer is uncertain. No one has ever survived a failure to tell the full tale. Some say that those who lose are taken, dragged into the fields, where they become part of something much older than any human ritual. Others claim the victims remain in their homes, but changed, their voices wrong, their faces stretching into impossible shapes. But the most common belief is the most terrifying. If you fail, the man in the fields does not leave. He stays in your home, forever out of sight, just at the edges of your vision. He follows you from room to room, standing in doorways, waiting. At first, you might only catch glimpses, a shadow in the reflection of your TV, a movement in the corner of your eye. but over time, he will become more present. One day, you will turn on the lights and find every window open, every door unlocked, every curtain pulled back, and when you turn around, he will be standing behind you. Then, he will ask the question, who tends the fields? And when you cannot answer, the ritual truly begins. A final warning. Urban legends are just stories. That's what we tell ourselves. But sometimes, the scariest thing isn't whether they're real. It's the fact that so many people across so many centuries believe them. So if you ever find yourself outside at dusk, staring into the distance, and you see a man standing far away, watching, don't say the words. Don't start the game. Because once you begin, you cannot stop. And if you aren't fast enough, if you aren't careful enough, you won't just lose. You will let something in. It began with a dare. Kira had always been drawn to the dark corners of the world. Abandoned buildings, ghost hunts, rituals whispered across internet forums. She craved the rush of standing on the edge of something unknown, daring it to reach out and pull her in. That's how she found the elevator game. A ritual born from the depths of South Korean and Japanese urban legends, it promised a glimpse into another reality. A world like ours, but wrong. A place where the sky bled red, the air was heavy with dread, and you were never truly alone. The rules were simple, yet strict. 1. Find a building with at least 10 floors. 2. Enter the elevator alone. 3. Press the buttons in a precise sequence. 4, 2, 6, 2, 10, 5. 4. On the 5th floor, a woman may enter. Do not look at her. Do not speak to her. 5. If you reach the 10th floor, you'll have a choice. Step out, and you will enter the other world. The woman was the most feared part of the ritual. Those who saw her said she was not human. She was a gatekeeper, a predator that existed between realities. Speaking to her, acknowledging her, was said to shatter the fragile barrier between worlds, letting her follow you back. Kira didn't believe in curses. She believed in experience. So on a cold October night in Seoul, she entered the elevator of an old apartment building, one long abandoned by most of its residents, the perfect place for a ritual. She pressed the buttons, heart racing with a mix of fear and excitement. The elevator creaked as it ascended, the numbers lighting up one by one. On the 5th floor, the doors slid open. A woman stepped inside. Kira's chest tightened. The woman's long black hair clung to her face like wet tendrils. Her dress was pale grey, damp, clinging to her thin frame. Her bare feet left faint marks on the dirty floor. Kira kept her eyes forward, resisting the burning urge to glance at her. She felt the woman's presence beside her, cold and wrong, like a shadow cast by something that shouldn't exist. The elevator continued upward. When it reached the 10th floor, the air seemed to press down on her chest. The doors opened. Kira stepped out. The world before her was both familiar and alien. The hallway was identical to the one she had entered, but the light was dimmer, tinged with a sickly yellow hue. The air smelled metallic, like blood, and beyond the windows, the sky was red. Silence enveloped everything. There were no voices, no distant traffic, just an oppressive stillness. She walked forward, each step slower than the last. Her instincts screamed at her to turn back, but curiosity pulled her deeper into the other world. At the end of the hallway, she saw movement. A shadow darted past an open doorway. She froze, heart hammering. When she stepped closer, the room was empty, but she felt watched. That's when the whispers began. They drifted through the corridor, soft, like breath against her ear. The words were indistinct, but she heard her name. Kira. Her throat tightened. She turned back toward the elevator, but it was gone. The hallway stretched into infinity in both directions. Panic surged in her chest. She tried her phone. Dead. The screen cracked when she pressed it. Behind her, the whispers grew louder. Kira! 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 She turned. The woman was there, standing at the end of the hall. Her face was wrong, stretched with empty black eyes and a mouth that twitched into an unnatural smile. "You shouldn't be here," the whispers said. Kira ran. Her footsteps echoed in the endless corridor. No matter how far she sprinted, the hallway never ended. The woman's figure lingered behind her, but walking slowly, confidently. Finally, she saw it. The elevator. The doors were open, waiting. She threw herself inside and pressed the buttons in reverse. 5, 10, 2, 6, 2, 4. The doors closed. The woman's face was there for a split second, too close, her mouth whispering something Kira couldn't understand, before the doors sealed shut. The elevator shook as it descended, the lights flickered. When the doors opened, she was back. The lobby was still, the air normal. The security guard glanced up from his desk, disinterested. Kira stumbled out, her heart still racing. But something was wrong. At home, the whispers continued. Sometimes she'd wait to find a shadow in the corner of her room, a woman with damp hair and bare feet. Her reflection in the mirror lagged, just for a second. And every so often, when she stepped into an elevator, the buttons would light up on their own. It was only later that Kira learned about Elisa Lam. Elisa was a 21-year-old student who died under mysterious circumstances in 2013 at the Cecil Hotel in Los Angeles. Her body was found in a rooftop water tank after guests complained about the water's foul taste. The security footage from her final moments is infamous, a haunting video of her in an elevator. She presses multiple buttons in quick succession, peering nervously into the hallway. She steps in and out, her gestures frantic, her arms moving in strange, unnatural ways. At times, she seems to be talking to someone unseen. The doors refuse to close, as if held open by an invisible force. The video went viral. Viewers across the world analyzed every frame, searching for answers. Some saw paranoia, others saw possession. But those who knew the elevator game recognized the signs. Elisa was following the ritual, but she had broken the rules. Theories flooded the internet. Some claimed she had spoken to the woman. Others believed she had stepped into the other world and never fully returned. The final, chilling detail, the water tank where she was found had a heavy lid, one that would have been nearly impossible for her to close from the inside. It was as if something had sealed her in. To this day, no one knows exactly what happened to Elisa Lam. Official reports called it an accident, drowning, complicated by her mental health struggles. But those who believe in the elevator game know better. Kira knew better. Because now, every night as she lay in bed, she felt it. The presence. The woman was still with her, watching, waiting, and somewhere far beyond the veil of reality, the doors to the other world stood open, ready for the next visitor. So if you ever find yourself alone in an elevator, and the buttons press themselves, or the doors open to reveal a crimson sky, remember this. Do not step out. Do not speak to her. Some doors were never meant to be opened. Thank you for watching this video by Sanctum Obscura. If you enjoyed unraveling the darkness with us, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Stay curious, stay brave, and remember, some mysteries are better left in the shadows. See you next time.